Hello and welcome to the 102nd Dev Update. I think I'm keeping track in my head well enough. With us today, we have a time-appropriate guest, and that would be Glasgow from the Ergo Foundation. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, I'm doing not too bad. Thanks for having me again.
No, thank you so much for coming on. And I know we're a day behind today, so hopefully we can get this out only one day late. We'll see how fast Andy is at editing this thing. So I think time appropriate, Mark. There's been some announcements in the EF recently about somebody's departure. I figured we could cover that a little bit about what that means and what it means for the EF moving forward and some of their plans. How's that sound?
Yeah. So Kushti posted a couple of days ago that he'd be leaving the EF to focus on development. It shouldn't change too much on how we operate internally, just one less person, but it's just so Kushti can kind of focus on development exclusively. He was speaking about starting up a development DAO. So hopefully he can build up those structures and focus on the development community and education a bit more. I think that's what he kind of hopes to do instead of getting bogged down with market makers and admin and governance and all this nonsense. Yeah.
Right. So tell me, what is a typical how does at least the EF operate in a typical operation? As in, what are your typical votes about? What are you typically asking the EF to vote on, and what are your thresholds there? Just give us some insights in, because for a lot of people the EF is not intentionally, but maybe they don't have this blaring in their face as a little bit of a black box as far as that goes.
Yeah, so we vote on a variety of things. If you navigate to the documentation site, there's actually a list of all the past votes for 2022 and 23 in the Ergo Foundation section on the homepage. But we'll discuss things like integrations. We've got Angie and Bezin with marketing, so we'll be discussing hackathons and events. And then we've got, of course, exchanges and all those dealings, market makers, some dev chats, even though we try and keep that kind of out of there, but inevitably you end up talking about some things, kind of more high level things, what's needed and what we can do to push towards that. At the moment, we're also remaking the website and making a new content plan. So just discussing loads of different things all the time.
So you guys are working on a complete revamp of the Ergo platform website?
Yeah, Biz has got a team on it. It looks quite similar. It's got the same kind of feel to it, but it's more mobile friendly, better for scrolling, bigger buttons, kind of better navigation, so people can get around easier, a bit simpler.
Oh damn! When do you think that's going to be out for release?
I think he's aiming for March. I've already seen a preview. There's a live preview. Go and click it. Things don't work, you click it, but it looks pretty good already.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so for moving forward, I think we had mentioned in the SIGS chat that we asked if there was any interest from the Ergo Foundation to have a community member of some sorts on the Ergo Foundation, and I was just wondering your response to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we need to get an ambassador from the SIGS on there ASAP. We could have somebody involved in discussions and have a vote. I'm not sure the best way to do that, but somebody or something in rotation or a nomination from the SIGS. But we can kind of figure that out over the next few weeks. But yeah, I brought it up in the meeting today. I think it's something we should do.
Nobody ran for the hills or hit the X button real quick.
No, they're all quite keen for the SIGS to get involved more.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great news. And speaking of more community involvement and that kind of thing, what does your have you guys been poking around Paideia at all? I know SIGS, you put up a couple votes for the SIGS at least for that, and we've voted on a couple Sigmanauts to be brought forward. It's pretty darn cool. EF planning to dive in?
Yeah, as we mentioned a few times, I think it'll take a while before all the kind of bugs have been ironed out and it's a more smooth experience and it's proven to be reliable and robust. But from what I've used so far, it works pretty well. It's nice and easy to use, nice and intuitive. So I think it'd be a good way to kind of make this more transparent, get it all on chain, publicly visible.
All right, next topic. Let's talk about exchanges. All right, so can you speak a little bit about what the importance of having a actual entity when it comes to listing exchanges, and why it's more difficult specifically for a community group with no established entity to be able to do that kind of thing.
Well, it depends who you're speaking to, of course. Some places don't care.
Yeah, of course, of course. Let's talk about the big ones, I guess.
Well, it depends where they're based, but it's good to have an entity there. They'll send it to our lawyers, and they'll just make sure you're not a complete scammer, pretty much. Yeah, it's just to make sure that you're doing the kind of basics.
I gotcha. Is it resulting in some sort of responsibility towards that? I mean, what happens if something happens and there's a lawsuit? Like, is there an entity? Is there a person inside your EF that takes a fall there, or that's signing for it, or is the EF taking it as a company, and the EF would essentially crumble because of some sort of lawsuit, or are there any people exposed?
I think it's set up with a non-liability normally, so like the max liability is like $1 or something. But it's unlikely anything that's going to happen unless they're counting Crux books or something. Um, but yeah, I don't think the EF members take responsibility there. It depends what would happen, I suppose, if they were culpable.
I
Never
gotcha.
say never.
That's right. It could always happen. All right, next one. Let's talk about. We're really firing through these. This is going to be fantastic. Let's talk about market makers. So currently, some people know, some people don't know that Ergo Foundation is part of some of the requirements of the listing exchanges, right? Is to have some sort of market making service or technique or volume that you have to do.
Yeah, they basically want you. Well, it depends where you go again, but at the minimum, they want the market to be liquid, so people can make orders without impacting the price too much. They want a certain spread there. Some exchanges will have volume requirements, but yeah, it's basically you need to get a market maker and get them to manage these things. They set monitor the spread, monitor the organic buys, and put up their different levels of buys and sells to match that. We've currently got one that manages Huboy, KuCoin, one more maybe, and then we've got Kushti managing other ones himself, like Gate with grid bots.
Is that why his machine turns liquid when he turns on this video?
Maybe
He's got to shut off his bot.
So that's obviously not a good long-term solution, but maybe we could have something like Hummingbird in the future with custom plugins for off the grid bots and have it properly integrated into Ergo, so we just boot it up and make a bit of profit. Because there's profit to be made, and especially small exchanges like Trade Ogre and non-KYC, because people go on trying to buy 1,000 ERG, 5,000 ERG, and they pay premiums for it sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's good that it would be good to have the community try and utilize that more and keep these markets liquid. Because they could. And you go.
So you're talking about essentially taking the Hummingbird trading app, packaging it up so that there are configurations and preferences easy to go for the everyday Ergo user, and they just spin up the executable and link their accounts and go from there essentially.
Make it as simple as possible. I think I've seen some other community that was doing that had their own. I think like Flux or something that had their own Hummingbird config set up, but Ergo's 95% owned by the community, so ultimately it needs to be them that kind of makes it liquid, whether it be on DeFi or centralized exchanges. It needs to be the community puts it forward.
Yeah, I feel like that's a tough sell. I think for unless you can prove it, because I feel like the tough sell right underneath that is first of all getting people to provide liquidity for like Spectrum decks and things like that, or Ergo decks now. I guess soon we should call it. And I feel like having somebody pick up a Hummingbird bot is even more of a risky feeling to them going forward. So I'd imagine we'd have to have some sort of solid numbers to show, hey, here's what it looks like running for a month with this bare base config with 1,000 ergs if you want to put that towards it. So you could take that kind of mystification away from it and allow people to see that it actually works.
Yeah, that's the biggest hurdle, that it's quite hard to monitor how well you're doing. Even if you know what you're doing, you don't really. You have to sit and work out how much profit you've made, or is it a loss. So if you made that kind of intuitive, had it in a really nice panel, showing you've made $5 profit this week, or whatever, or even $5 loss. I think even if you show the loss, people would be more comfortable because they actually know what's happening.
That's true.
As opposed to I don't know what's happening here. I could be losing loads of money, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yep. Interesting. And I wonder if we could provide SIGs could provide rewards for known hummingbird users as well. Essentially, that would be interesting too. Like let's say during a lot of sideways trading. Well, I mean the point of those bots is too you're supposed to make a little bit off of either way depending on how it works. Whether it goes up, whether it goes down, whether it goes sideways.
Yeah, you need volatility for grid bots, ideally, which there's not a lot of in the bear market, but it could be combined with different things. Um, like plug it into all DeFi and doing a bit here and there. It could add up. You get some nice market buys into your walls.
All right. Well, that's fun. So if anybody listened to the AMA last week, I spoke a little bit about the market makers that the SIGs are talking to. And we'll have updates about it soon. As of today, we've met with all 5 of the companies that we were introduced to. So we should have some more updates, maybe with the AMA this week or maybe in the dev update next week, depending. But interesting scale of excuse me, try not to choke on myself. Interesting scale of legitimacy to degeneracy, depending on which market maker we're talking to. So it's honestly kind of shocking. Hopefully, once we kind of generalize the reports and put out some numbers, we can release those to the entire community, so the community can have a better idea of what that is. But it's interesting. You guys have been sitting on this for years, essentially knowing that this is how it is. It's a burden of knowledge to look at another chain and be like, they're probably market mating the shit out of this, and that's why what's happening kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. With volume, it's the biggest one. You just look at compared to the volume of most other coins, and it's a lot worse than so many coins that have got no activity, no community activities, no people buying, and I think just everybody's at it.
Yeah.
whether they know or not, maybe the exchange at it or somebody else is paying these market makers, but there's very few coins that have a volume profile that matches ours. So I think just everybody's pretty much at it. Or on an exchange is at it.
Absolutely crazy. And then you were saying too, exchanges also do their part as well with some wash trading. Am I saying that right?
Well, I'm sure the bigger ones do, especially for bigger coins. Most exchanges we're on will just kind of leave you to it. Go using to keep it liquid. You've got a market maker account. Here's what you pay per transaction. Put money in it and do it. They don't really take much to do it with it. I'm sure some do. Don't tell us. But I've asked the market makers to try and suss it out a few times. I don't think there's too much nefarious things going on in the exchanges we're on in the order books in terms of market making outsiders.
Yeah, I remember Joe talking in chat once, or maybe it was you. You were talking about a project that had their trading over the day was like 6, 7, 8, 9 times their entire market cap or something. It's like,
yeah,
okay,
it's crazy.
how the hell is that happening? Oh goodness gracious. All right. So besides the website, what's the next big focus of the EF moving forward?
So there's quite a lot of things. The main thing we're discussing today was kind of restructuring the hackathons, speaking to an outside contractor to make it into a more bigger event, changing the format. Maybe we have one internal one and then one external one, and they'll work with you to make the hackathon, make it marketable to people, and then pull people in from their user base. So we're exploring various options there at the moment, which I think is quite exciting. Because hackathons are great; they come out with great projects, but maybe we might be just doing them too often. I think they might be a bit burnt out when you're doing it a few months later again. So we're just working on that, trying to get that restructured.
What about taking all the winners' addresses and dumping them into Paideia for an output, and then distributing one token per Ergo wallet holder, and a portion of the prize, so like maybe 1,000 or 2,000 Ergo. So then the community can utilize. Well, I guess the SIGs could do this. Shit, you guys don't need to do this. Yeah, so we could utilize Paideia essentially for a vote. Get everybody on Paideia to sign up for it, and then talk about the projects in the comment sections, and then vote on the project. And when a certain project gets a certain amount of threshold or a certain time is elapsed plus that, then it would pay out to the projects in order of how many votes they have. if that's
Yeah,
possible. Interesting.
could be a
Interesting.
good idea.
Cool. Yeah, that's so I saw a Lithium, right? I saw some they were doing a hackathon recently and they actually reached out to the Ergo community on Twitter, saying, "Hey guys, come on and try and win this hackathon," kind of thing. I thought that was very interesting that I don't remember, at least from my posting on the last hackathon, inviting any other besides the main cryptocurrency hashtag specifically targeted to do that. But that's interesting as well, trying to bring other
I
people on
think
like that.
I think we've done a few of them last year. Maybe one partnered with Lithium. I think they just provided to the joint prize pool. I think they might have been doing their own hackathon
Flux? I
time as
think you did
well.
Flux too. Didn't you have a
The
Flux prize?
Flux, yeah.
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 Super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, I think they're great to do. We've got the UTXO Alliance chat. I should try and do more stuff with them. So in
Right.
future, especially now we've got bridges and stuff. Try and bridge it a bit.
When's speaking of bridges, when's Catalyst done? Is that over soon, the vote?
It's 14 days. I think it's about 4 days in. So about
Okay, so 10 more days.
Just over a week left.
Okay. And I was reading the Rosen Bridge one and I noticed it said 6 months and it made me excited. So hopefully hopefully it's 6 months regardless of whether they win or not. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Amino might have said that, but don't hold me to that. But yeah, I think they've been working on it for a while now. So my naive assumption doesn't look too much harder than the first bridge. I suppose each one would get a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I know that MHS has said the BTC one should be a lot easier because only one-sided, a lot more simple assumptions. So hopefully we can get that one out soon after ETC.
Awesome.
Sorry, ETH.
Yeah, ETH. ETH. I've heard it said both. What do you say? How do you say
ERC. ETH.
ETH. All right, sounds good. I'll adopt that from now on. All right, let's jump to the dev update. What do you say?
Yeah, sounds good.
You want to start?
Sure. So we've got Luivatra, who is in the process of distributing governance tokens for the Rosen and Psychonaut DAOs. So on the SIGs we've set up in our first vote, we're going to have 3 or 4 up. We could see the Rosen Guards use that as well to kind of make changes to the policies and change fees and stuff. Can't wait to see what they break. And he's also been working on Crux. So he's replacing the calls and Coinlay CSV extract. So this is a much needed thing for people trying to do their taxes. You can just load up Crux and export it all for Coinlay nice and neatly, so your accountant will be thanking you. He started working on Crux Harmony. So this is a smart, lightweight load balance between multiple servers. So it's a load balancer for it's using the node. Okay, and a fallback public node.
Yeah, it looks like it's for nodes that are not fully synced, essentially. Fallback, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, so it'd be people to use the DApp so they can use that instead of relying on one node that'll break.
Yeah.
People ask, how did I change my node in the settings? Like see what people in the wallets come through. And he started a repo for storing address and metadata. So address and labels. Very cool.
Neat. So it's almost like a well, it is a load balancer essentially. And that'll be neat if it's on chain as well, storing the data for the status of the load balances per block, essentially. Neat. Cool. All right, let's see. What do we have? We have Kushti, Ergo Protocol Research and Development. Started Sigma Mac implementation. Rough implementation is more or less ready. Need to fix 2.11 compatibility issues and write tests. He posts a GitHub poll. Found a way that context extension vars ID semantics can be defined in a more sharp way. Made a PR with tests on the way. Reviewed a few PRs, new documentation on building alternative clients working with P2P network. Notes that a Ergo, you may find this interesting. Discussing possible message call refactoring in the node code with Colby. Discuss simple Schnorr SIGs implementation with Gargarin. Starting prototype sidechain implementation on top of the node code. Other matters. Working on off-chain part for Gort dev emission. top up is done. Now working on payout, and then can test everything with modified Oracle Core. He already has it. Doing another presentation for Chain Cache. Oh, he mentioned that in the AM Day. Looking forward to that. Cool. Private testing of Dexy, the whole bank LP stack is started now by code for us only. Super cool. Yeah, those Gort, right? He's going to be using some of those Gort rewards for, was it Gluon, right? Is some of the Gort rewards going to be used for Gluon? Was that it, or something like that?
I think I missed that.
I may have misread that, but for some reason I thought I read somewhere where some of these reward tokens were going to be used something other than Dexigoat. Maybe I'm probably wrong. This crap all blends together. Not crap, but you get the idea.
Well, I think it is using the gold Oracle, so it would make sense.
Um,
So next up, we've got Nautilus, who's been working on ErgSnaps. This is the MetaMask integration. He's added transaction history, done major refactoring review. Next up is to display unconfirmed transactions. So this means somebody sends you a couple of Erg and it just pops up instantly without being confirmed. Take a last look at custom signing schema implementation, deploy and release, and write a DApp integration library. On the top of that, I think TrustWallet requires the library to be audited as well. So we take that done. Not any of the development libraries, but the actual ErgSnap.
Who has to audit it? They have some people that audit it? Okay.
I think it's either an approved third party or just any third party, but we need to get that audited as well before it can get live publicly.
You say Trust or MetaMask?
MetaMask and Trust, actually, but different libraries.
Okay. Well, that'll be awesome when that happens. Okay, let's see. What's that?
In fact, for Trust, I think Kushti might mention it just above, but the Morphic went in and rewrote a basic version of Sigma Rust so that it wouldn't need audited because it falls on the core protocol, I think.
Yes, I think I saw that somewhere. Okay, let's see. We have FlyingPig. He made a buy low sell high bot. Buy low sell high bot for KuCoin. I've never heard of that. Usually it's buy high sell low. Not strictly Ergo specific, but there were some discussions in main Ergo Telegram chat around having more bots interacting with exchanges, and this was a lot in Sigmanauts 2 as we were talking about Hummingbird and making that accessible. So I thought I'd share something I created last year as I was learning how to work with APIs, and he says he's a novice spaghetti code coder. Trade any pair on KuCoin, but obviously use it for Ergo. We'll continuously buy and sell based on swings in price. For example, if you buy at 1.2, you can instruct the bot to sell at 125. Ceiling and floor price, beyond which no trade will execute. Can track gate IO price. Any buy sell price is a certain percent above, below KuCoin price. Logs all trades in a CSV file. For your taxes, I'm sure most of you are doing. Highly configurable with loads of options. Use with caution and understand the risks. So there could be bugs. Yeah, with these kind of things, they're awesome, but don't go putting like 10,000 ergs in it and push and go. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty neat. He's got a nice console output right here that you might be able to see in the picture a little bit. I love those. I love the text output consoles that are refreshed. You know what I mean? The live, whatever. There's got to be a name for it, right? Some sort of dashboard, whatever the terminal-based dashboards are. I think
there's a name. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so beautiful compared to frickin', some fancy ass web page. That's just my preference. So, all right. What else we got here? There we go.
So we've got updates for the Ergo node from Colby Cellador. So he wrote documentation for Ergo Core, and he's wrote a small client code in research. So up next is class refactoring of message in Ergo Core, Ergo node to accommodate library needs as discussed with Kushti. Test migrations and issue 2092 that he's working on possibly. So that'll be on the PTP layer and stuff, more kind of deeper things.
Well, we've got the Rosen. Small update from Rosen this week. Rosen Bridge, Rosen Net. Work more on running a simulated network for testing a hole function. Rosen Bridge, Rosen App. Added multi-wallet support. add Eternal Lace Flint Cardano wallets. I don't know. Does that mean they added them or they're working on it? I think it means they're working on it, right?
Add, yeah, I'd say add.
Yeah, yeah. Rosen Bridge landing. Fix some styling issues with guard set slider. Fix some styling issues with guard sets. Oh, cool. And that's it. Nice small update. Means they're cranking along there. My watcher and guards have been running flawlessly. Just sitting there. I got to check on them. I got to remind myself to check on them at least once a day to make sure everything's okay. Sometimes I forget though.
So next up, we've got updates from your reputation system. So he's implemented the first version of the Rust library for performing calculations on the reputation graph. He's using Surreal database to store the graph, allowing for in-memory, on-disk, and web-embedded database usage, compared to the Python library for use in the Cellador node. Cellador? Is that how you pronounce that?
I don't know. Salute.
Salute. Next steps include extracting Ergo tests for external testing, comparing to WASM, using static and web environments, and solve an issue with Ergo Explorer on the web application. Yeah, it's a cool little project from the last hackathon, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think he's got a video too on Ergo Summit as well. I think he's got a video up there if anybody's interested in seeing it. We got THC with some nice updates. Set up Jira for project management. Link Jira to GitHub issues for THC repositories. So when someone creates a GitHub issue, it turns into a Jira to do. Oh, awesome. Nice. It means they'll never escape it. It'll always get notified. Poor guy. Link Jira to Telegram channel. Oh gosh, on Terahertz Tom, he named it Terahertz Tom bot to update Telegram channel with project update task completion. Oh, that's awesome. That'll be helpful. And he just pushes stuff and it's done. Create a Discord server for THC and LinkedIn Terahertz Tom to the project updates channel. Awesome. Let's put the link there. Set up Restream to live stream simultaneously to Twitch and X Twitter. Wow. Connect a Twitch stream bot to THC Discord to update live streams channel. Nice. He's going all out here. ErgCamel. To be clear, this is not an alternative to Fleet SEK. It's a one layer above something like Fleet, where something like Fleet can choose to use Reason ML, produce types that have cross-platform coherence between an Ergo script type system for both native desktop and web apps. The reason OCaml is being chosen is because it's a functional language, has similarities to Scala in certain ways, has similarities to Haskell in other ways. I see it as a good middle language using Reason ML syntax to combine all the disparate smart contract language across different blockchains into a unified type system, starting with Ergo. Kushti mentioned on Dev Update, DevB, SIC, update that he's interested in a Lisp-like option because it would compile to Ergo tree. I think this might be a good thing to explore, but it does not actually solve the specific issues I'm going for with ErgoCaml. Meta language through OCaml for all smart contracts using Ergo Smart Contract Language System as a skeleton. Wow, nice. So he set up a GitHub repo for the OCaml code base, mapped out pseudocode for our existing Ergo Smart contracts in OCaml, mapped out the OCaml pseudocode in ReasonML pseudocode. Turns out there's a dev working on Rust OCaml direct translator. He found out. It can take a .rs file and output a .ml file. Wow. May look into using this as opposed to translating everything manually via Sigma Rust Ergo libc. Man, I don't think Mike sleeps at all, does he?
Doesn't look like it.
All right. There you go.
So we've got MG5, an update on ErgoNames. He's been implementing pricing stuff like USD oracles and contracts, interfaces in progress, indexer in progress, and subnames proof of concept built completely client side was successful in testnet. So this has been a long time coming. I think he was trying to solve the front running problem for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
It kind of got pushed to the back burner. They're working on other things like Winter Protocol, but he seems to be back on it now, nearing completion. For Phoenix, he's also doing an interface redesign and plans for Hold RS Husky and Hold RS Ada soon. Maybe after the redesign and reviewing Sigma AppKit release. Yeah, it'd be good to get some more Phoenix instances live.
Yeah, super good. Right, they finished the contract because the contract's done. That pretty much it makes it really easy to spin up any sort of HODL that you want on Ergo. So super neat. And I think HODL Comet is like, is it 100 million or something plus? Something ridiculous like that. It's way up there as far as what's HODLed, what's locked. Super neat.
What's the burn rate?
Goodness
69%.
gracious. Let me see if I can bring it up there. I can't. Yeah, I don't know. It's not coming up in the recents. Let's see. Yeah, we got one more kicking down here. There we go. NetNotes. So we're NetNotes version 0.20c. Linux is out. Got a separate Linux repository up and running to make it easier to clone build. Build with Maven and Java 17 plus. The Windows 1 will still be maintained and updated. Basically, it's mirrored. It processes like the node, execute with a bash shell, mirroring the command execution and do's. Lots of bug fixes because it's just easy to catch bugs after setting up the new environment in Ubuntu. Spectrum Finance is almost ready to be used. You get wallet token price info. Just set up price caching for version 0.2.1, which should be out in a couple days. And from what you explained earlier, Mark, this is essentially an encrypted pathway for a browser to speak with a node. This encapsulates a node in the back end.
Yeah, it consumes the node in the back end, communicates it with it encrypted, and he's going to build in loads of things like Spectrum Finance. So it's quite an abstract concept, but I think it'll make a lot more sense when I can get into to actually try it out and see what features he's got in it. But I think it's a pretty cool idea. Check it out properly.
Super cool. And I think that's it. Usually HQ sneaks in here, and he told me on the SIG update that he was going to sneak in, but the guy forgot. So, hey, that's his loss, right? Oh, we'll leave it on stealth and mixer. That's great. Awesome. Perfect one. All right. That's it. That concludes the reading portion of the of dev update, brought to you by the letter A for Aberg, I guess, just like Sesame Street. Any clothing things you want to talk about? What's it called? We have. I know I'm super excited about Paideia. We've got several votes up through Paideia. I've got some feedback for Louis already. I feel like at least the default view of the votes sliding left and right get a little lost. I think it'd be a little bit, more visualized sorting there, so you can see a little better what you vote, what you don't vote, what other people do. That might be cool, but those are just silly peanut visuals that don't change the functionality at all.
I've made loads of issues on the GitHub. Probably hates me. Just little things like UI improvement.
Louis hates everybody, so
at least nice and organized.
Yeah, true. You notice how Louis, when it came to distributing the Sigmanauts token, vote token, the Paideia Sigmanauts token, it was added to his tipper bot within seconds, Mark. But we gotta wait weeks for other things to get added. So when Louis wants something added, it's in seconds. So we know he's possible. We know he's capable of doing it that fast.
Oh, definitely. Just his motivation.
So super excited about that. Also super excited to hear more about these sidechain frameworks and what's going to come from that. I know that's a ways out, but the thought of having different side chains being mined for different incentives because they do different things is, I think, a super cool concept. I can't wait to see more of what that looks like.
Yeah, it'd be good to boost miners' income a bit with that in future, make it more profitable to mine Ergo, bring back the glory days of ETH gas fees.
Yeah. That reminds me, there was a good discussion we had in the SIGs. Maybe it moved to main chat too. Maybe it started in main chat, but there were really cool things. People get worried about fees for miners, if it's going to sustain miners after a mission is over and that kind of thing. But I think I asked Kushti on one of the AMAs once as well. There are so many things you can do to either build another emissions contract and fill that with some sort of revenue stream to help out miners as far as that goes. So many options out there that it made me totally drop a concern for any sort of ending of emissions or emissions contracts, to know that we can solve that at some point if that is an issue, in fact, in the end. But it's just so cool how versatile Ergo is with that kind of thing. Hey, if TX fees aren't making enough money for the miners to be interested, then let's find some other incentive and build a emissions contract and feed that to the miners instead. That kind of thing. So super cool that that kind of stuff can be done.
Yeah, definitely. The sky's the limit. If there's use, we'll find a way to get money to miners. It's really simple as that. I don't think it's going to get to the point when there's loads of use in the network. I mean, run out of emissions, they go, okay, that's it, we need to go home. There's plenty of ways we can figure out to get money towards miners.
Yeah, we can always raise the TX fees to like $100, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It works for ETH.
So even make it optional and put it on a side chain. That's fine.
Oh, there you go.
People will pay extra.
Oh boy. Cool. All right. Any closing words, Mark? Anything you want to get out?
No, I think I'm good. I'll just mention that we've, as Kushti said, I think Gluon and Sigma Gold are the next up. They're pretty close. They're just in final private testing, and then should be public testing after that. And then we'll see how long that lasts. Maybe 2 weeks.
I'm really interested in that because it's what's it called? Once Dexy Gold's up, right, and the actual price of Gort or the usability of Gort starts making sense because how's it? Let me see if I can mouth this out. So depending on how much Dexy Gold is used, depends on how much buyback is happening to the Gort contract on Spectrum, which then makes Gort more valuable, which then perhaps makes the Gort users, the Gort Oracle holders, holding a little more or maybe selling, and then it also helps with speculation on the Gort token. So it's an economy that's gonna start getting clicked once that goes live. I'm really excited. For now, a lot of us have been donating the Gort tokens to the dev fund because honestly, personally, I feel bad about cashing in any Gort tokens because all I'm running is an Oracle and it's on some server that I already pay for in the cloud. So it's too much of a gift essentially. So that's always fine to go back to the devs as far as that goes. But it'll be interesting once that economy gets turned on. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely try and see what they're worth and where it goes. Yeah, it's a lot of exciting stuff coming up there.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how much, if there'll be any movement from a SIG-USD stable over to, gold. See if people want to. Yeah.
I think they've got quite different value pieces. But basically, people are going to buy them for different reasons. There's not much SIG-USD in circulation anyway, so I'm not sure anyone will dump or switch it over. Probably long term, people will pick Dexy Gold over Sigma USD depending on what the need is.
Yeah, right. Because gold assumingly rises in price as time goes on, whereas SIG-USD is more of is a stable price.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if gold crashes, I guess we're all fucked, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
All right, we'll end it on that. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Thanks, Mark, for coming on. Appreciate it. I hope you feel better.
No problem. Thank you. You too.
Ciao.